Everybody, welcome to Does That Make Sense? This is episode 5, and I am excited about what we're going to talk about today because we have a completely different podcast guest than we normally have. This is, in the past, we've had Brandon, who's my producer, and he's worked here. We have Allie, and my parents texted me the other day, and we're like, when do we get to be on? And I was like, whenever you want, we're going to do this. So before we go, I want to shout out King Cat. It's an AMW promotion company. Last week's episode, we shouted out AMW Promotions. King Cat is a catfish. This is weird. It's a catfish fishing tournament that we operate where we travel across the country, all different parts of the country, and we hold fishing tournaments, and people will pay a registration fee, and then they fish, and then they bring the fish to a stage where we weigh them in, and then we give prize money to the winners. And the thing that I like about it is that we have a raffle table, and the raffle table, they pay for tickets and they win raffles. And then that raffle table, we do a kids scholarship fund. So if a kid participates in the kids fishing event that happens at that tournament weekend, at the end of the fishing season, they get their name put in a bowl, a fish bowl, and they get their name put in a bowl. And then if they pick it, they win a scholarship. And so it's like I can't remember the amount of money, so I don't want to say it. But I like that because everything that we do is focused on kids, Safe House, Refuge, all of the other companies that we have, we point back to the kid stuff. And so the fishing tournament, King Cat, we also have one called Crappie Fishing Series. And so all of those, we get kids outside, we get people to fish, there's some money raised for cities, there's some money raised for some scholarships. So we're repping the King Cat gear today. So thanks so much. So the guest that I have today is texted me literally within like hours after the first episode dropped. Maybe it was a day, but it was really quick. It was like she was the first person to text me after the episode started airing, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I can't believe that we're getting a response so quickly. And she said, I've got so many ideas and I would love to talk about all these stuff. And so I immediately was like, when we need a guest or we're trying to fill some space and get the guest thing rolling, I'm excited because I know her from the dance studio. She is she does a lot, but she's a dance mom. She's prop master. She's office lady extraordinaire. She does everything for J&J's that she can get her hands on. And I'm pleased and thrilled to have her on the podcast today. Jeena Anness, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
This is so cool. How are you?
I'm really well. I am still trying to find out if King Cat actually has a mascot because I heard there is a costume floating around somewhere.
I don't know if we still have it, and that would be a question to ask my mom and dad. Mm. But we did, and you were going to wear it.
Yeah, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready and prepared to wear it across the stage at several regional
dance competitions.
Yes.
Remind me, because I need to ask you as we get into the dance conversation, if you remembered, I think it was Dance Explosion where I made a fool of myself. Were you there? I don't know if you remember.
Which time, Andy?
Good question. Yeah, the first time. So we're going to talk about that. But so, yeah, there is a catfish costume, and he had a name. He had a Facebook at one point.
Oh my!
And it had 7 followers. It never took off. This was before we took ownership of it. Not to say that we would have done any better, but there was a costume. Do you remember the costume, Brandon? No. So yeah, I did put the mask on, the helmet on, and I want to tell you that I think once you saw it, you wouldn't want to.
I remember you did mention that, yes.
It had seen better days. When you put that on, you could tell that costume had seen stuff. And so, yeah, so you are, you've been part of the dance studio with J&J's Dance Depot where we mentioned it. It's where my wife teaches. My daughters dance there. Your daughter, you have 2 daughters that have, one doesn't dance now. She graduated. The other currently does dance there. So just a little bit, we'll tell the listeners, because I want to start with this. When you saw the first episode, what made you be like, hey, I want to be on, I want to talk about this?
Well, I've always kind of felt that I've always kind of thought about things that I've wanted to talk about before. And, this platform just really, kind of sparked an interest. And I was like, oh, wow, I got to reach out to Andy because I think there's a lot of cool things that, cool kind of avenues that this could go down for you because we kind of have a little bit of a connection.
Right.
So
yeah. So after you had texted me, I was sitting outside. I'm like outside, the dog's running around doing his business. And I'm like, this is great. This is going to be so fun. So I went in and I showed the Steph to text. I showed Steph the text, and Steph, like she doesn't get excited about things at all, And I remember when I showed her the text, she was excited that it was you, but then it was also where it was like, oh, it's about your podcast. Like it was like, like a very typical wife, like response to like a husband's like side hobby kind of thing.
Right.
Oh, you got your little thing that you're doing. Because I did ask Steph, are you going to be on? And she looked at me and she's like, it's not my thing. And she said it so Steph-like. I mean, and people who are listening who don't know her don't know, but you get it because
absolutely.
You pray during the dance season. You see her more than I do.
Sure. Well, it is. It's kind of like even though we know each other, it's like worlds are colliding. Because I'm Steph's.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you are too. She'll say that. She'll be like, Gina's my girl. Don't mess with Jeena. And I know better I know who to cross and who not to cross at the dance studio.
She is my child's second mom too.
Yes.
So you know.
Every dance competition, Nora will run up and we'll just, if Steph's eating something, I know that when I get food for Steph, that it's also food for Nora.
Right.
She'll just grab it, usually in the costume, which Steph yells at her about relentlessly. And so a little bit about you. We had talked yesterday kind of a little bit about what we were going to talk about today. So I want to give you a chance to kind of give that same little intro. Do you know what I mean? So let's hear about Jeena.
Sure. So, I'm a mom, like you said, Andy, of two girls, two very awesome girls. Shout out to my daughter at Ohio University. She's going into her junior year.
It's the Bobcats, right?
That is the Bobcats. Yeah, the Bobby. So her and all of her friends. And I'm just so happy to see her with such a great group of people down in Athens. She loves it so much. I had her for a total of 2 weeks over the summer. She was like, okay, that was good. I'll see you later. I'm ready to go back to my friends. And then my youngest daughter is going to be a junior at Girard High School.
Okay.
And she is awesome also. And they are so different in so many ways. Yeah. Raised in the same house, which is just so, that is something that kind of blows my mind. How can I have two kids that are
same environment,
same rules? Yes.
Right? Like the same stuff. And then they're just so different.
So different.
I have a boy and two girls. So the boy and girl thing, it's like, oh yeah, there's where the difference comes from. But the two girls are so different from each other.
Yes.
And so it is bizarre to think about because Nora was the big sister. The dance studio has a program where during competition season, the older girls are big sisters to the younger girls and they do gifts and they like provide help with like costume change, like whatever kind of like, teenage influence. It's one of my favorite things about the studio is how they build that familial like connection. It's not just about competition. It's about the family and it almost feels cliche, but it's such a part of their DNA. And so was it Ellie or Emerson that Nora was the big sister of?
I think she had Emerson, I think Sophia had Ellie.
Yeah. And I remember both of my daughters being so thrilled when they found out that each one of those was their big sister for that year. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm going to put Nora on blast here and she's not here to defend herself. I don't know if you remember this or if you even heard about this because it's funny that Emerson was her little sister for one competition because Emerson was born in April and then recital's always in June. And this was when Emerson was like, what is that? 2 months old, right? Maybe going on 3 months. And Nora wanted to hold her. Do you remember this?
I do. I sure do.
And Nora was holding her. And Nora was, how old was she then?
Oh,
tiny. It was 7 years ago.
Right.
Almost.
So she's 9.
So
maybe?
She would have been just a baby herself. And she wanted to hold Emerson so bad. And she loved Emerson so much. And then she was holding her and then she just moved her arm. And as any 9-year-old would do, not fully comprehending what that could mean, And I just remember Emerson's head just like plopping down. So, and Shelby, who is like the babysitter of all of my kids, like she's babysat all of my kids since Ethan was a baby, was was sitting right next to Nora, like helping her.
Right.
And as we all know, things happen in a blur. So Nora did nothing wrong, right? I'm not even, I say I put her on blast. She did nothing wrong. It's a funny story now because Emerson is literally, it's almost like it bonded them in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just, it's so funny because now Nora is this, I mean, she's almost an adult. Like she's a grown person now.
Right.
And when Steph and I are like, we need like a babysitter that, you know, cause Shelby's onto like career and, you know, whatever, like growing up and doing her own stuff. We'll talk about that in another episode. But she's not available. And so we've been like, Nora can babysit, right? She's got a car now. And so it's just funny to think about, you know, going back to the familiar thing in the studio and this thing, you know, my favorite thing about, I think, the studio outside of dance and what it teaches is that my daughters have, you know, 175 aunts. Like they just have all of these people and all the moms, like everybody takes a key role in, you know, there's been times where I am running late to drop off food and I get there and somebody's got food for, you know, it's all covered. Yeah. So I want to come back around because you mentioned Ohio University. Obviously my kids, I've got several years, 5 or 6 years before my kids are off. Talk about a little bit about like what it's like you're raising these kids. And I know that as a mom in general, there's this, my kids are my world. For you, there's a little bit extra of that because like the side thing that you do was at the studio, which was their world. So there's even more of a connection to that. Right. What was the process like when she, you know, she's out of the house now? Like what's that like for a mom?
Well, you know, it was really crazy for me because I really, you know, because I am so involved with my kids and what they do for many years, 18 years of my life and every, you know, everything that they're involved in, it's all been them. So one of the hardest things for me when Sophia went down to OU was, you know, well, number one, I didn't feel like I was done with her yet, you know, truly, you know, I've had her for 18 years and, you know, there was a week before she was going down to Athens and I said, you know, I'm not done with you yet. You know, there's still movies that we're supposed to watch together and music I'm supposed to introduce you to and, you know, all of the things. And then the second part of that was now I've got this other, you know, girl at home and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with her without my oldest daughter. Yeah. And that was something that was really hard for me to do, was trying to make that adjustment into being a parent of a single child, so to speak, you know, and then that process of, you know, how to be a parent to an adult child and, you know, what does that look like? And that I've still struggled with, you know, she's going to be 21 years old next year. And I don't know, you know, where is that fine line of being a parent, being a friend, allowing that growth and, you know, so that, you know, and I'm thinking that a lot of people go through that, you know? Yeah. And then of course there's the, you know, I only have 2 more years before my youngest daughter graduates from high school. Yeah. And then it's the, you know, what's going to happen then?
Yeah. Then it's full empty nest. Yeah.
It is. And so, you know, because I have been such a huge part of that world and the studio and, you know, just kind of rewinding a little bit, you know, you talk about how it is such a big family and, you know, your kids feel like they've got so many like aunts and, you know, I've watched so many kids grow up in that studio and I've been such a big part of it for such a long time. And I get, you know, very emotional. Like this year, for example, we have 10 seniors.
I was thinking about that and because this year we had 3. Right. And that is 3 to 7 is kind of like the average.
Yeah. Sophia's year, we had 8. Yeah. So that was big. Yeah. But this year we have 10 seniors.
That's a big group.
So, you know.
It's going to be a lot of tears that last routine at nationals.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't quite understand if you're not in that world, you know, because these girls, they stick together for years and years. Yeah. So, you know, being such a big part of it for so long, you know, I'm kind of at that place now where, you know, I told our studio owner, you know, I told her when Nora was a freshman, I said, okay, I'm putting in my 4-year resignation notice, and
you missed the window. It's a 5-year resignation. You can't do it.
Right. And now I'm kind of on the back end of that. And, I say, okay, you got me for 2 more years, and being, I'm proud being 51 years old, and, I don't know what that's going to look like after she's done.
Yeah.
And
I can't fathom that.
Yeah, I'm really starting to struggle a little bit because, I'm excited to see what the next chapter is for my kids.
Right.
But I'm a little nervous for myself because I am always on the go and always moving and going and, what's the next thing? And, like we're going to Chicago this weekend for something that Nora's got for dance. And, we were in Pittsburgh last weekend for something for dance. So, what is that all going to look like? Yeah. So, I'm struggling with that.
My oldest, Ethan, doesn't do a lot of extracurricular stuff. He does like the school band and like prep bowl and things like that. There's nothing that's deeply, connected. Ellie is going to be 11. So what is that? 7, 8 more years, maybe, which is wild to think about because at this point, that's how long she's been in it. She started, when did they start? They're potty trained.
2.5. They're 2.5, 3 years old.
They're in the creative movement. And so, she's been in it almost longer than what she has left, which is wild to think about. And she's only 11.
It's going to be done in a minute.
And so, and I had a friend who owns a dance studio in Pennsylvania that when Steph was pregnant with Emerson, she told me, she's like, one of your daughters is not going to like dance, right? Like the odds of both of them liking it and staying in it the whole time. And I'm like, I think Emerson might like it more. Like, she doesn't ever stop. Like Ellie will be like, oh, I'm a little sore and I'm going to go, or it's hot. And Emerson is like singing and dancing, and that might change, but because I know that school change, they grow up or whatever. But right now, it's hard to believe that Ellie has been in it almost as long as the time that she has left.
Right.
And I know that Steph, I remember Steph talking about how she was having a hard time with Nora because Steph and Nora go all the way back to when Steph was tiny as a teacher. And so you said second mom, like Steph's not going to know what to do, when it's time to watch Nora graduate,
and there's a lot of times we can't even talk about it.
Yeah, it doesn't come up.
Can't even talk about it.
It's taboo. And I understand why, because I watch my wife and this is what I love, and you're going to be able to relate to this because you're there when no one else is at the studio, or when, there's nothing else going on and you're cutting this or taping that or doing whatever with props, and not to mention office stuff and talking strategy and plans and whatever, do you know what I mean? And then Steph is, it's 11:30 at night and I'm watching her leaning against the counter in our kitchen because that's the only space that she can really stretch out and kind of work, and she's got a music and she's listening to the same 30 seconds for the 50 times. And I see her doing this stuff and I'm like, if you don't know what she's doing, you're like, are you good? Like, what is wrong with you? But she's making notes and she's doing she's choreographing and she's doing formations and she's, and so I remember when I was growing up, I used to think I was that very typical sports guy where I was like, oh, dancers, they're just jumping around and spinning, right? And that's so stupid. Like I would punch that little kid right in his throat if I ran into him now. Because you, as a prop, what is the term? Prop master?
Prop person,
prop queen,
prop mom.
Prop queen. Let's get it right.
Yeah.
I want to ask this question, and people, this is completely on no context here, because people who are watching this may have seen dances, and you might not want to answer it because Jody might hear it. Least favorite prop ever?
Oh, the book. The book goes down in history
as the least favorite prop ever.
Yes, and I think that anybody watching that is a part of our studio knows what that means. The book.
Yeah.
The most monstrous prop that Jody has ever created in her mind that we actually got created, for real, because and it when it worked, It was fabulous.
Yeah.
It took a lot. There were a lot of moving parts, and but that was the one.
Was this also a competition prop, or was it just a recital?
It was a production prop.
Okay.
So
for those listening that don't understand, we'll and you can fill in any gaps here. So dance competition is you are part of the dance studio as a recreational dancer, which means that you're just taking classes, and then at the end of the dance season, you participate in recital. Competition, you have to try out, and you get accepted to be a part of the competition team. If you don't take rec classes, you can't be on competition. There's a certain qualifications that you have to have. And so competitions have regional competitions, which we're doing 4 now. We do 3 with the whole team, right?
Yeah, you're doing good.
And then there's 1 that's just extras, which is solos, duos, trios,
some
special groups
right.
that they did for that particular season. So the prop mom, the prop queen, or whoever is responsible to kind of bring to life the vision of the choreographer, whoever choreographed that number, whether it's, the owner or, my wife's a dance teacher, choreographer. And so you work with them, you come up with these ideas, you put it on. And J&J's is infamous for having very elaborate stage sets, right? Not as elaborate as some. Oh, I mean, we're not building Thunderdomes.
Yeah, we're low key
by a lot of standards. And if you watch Dance Moms, it's exaggerated, but not by much. It's definitely not. It's ridiculous, but only by a little bit. I think, honestly,
it's not the cutthroat.
Yeah, I mean, at least the studio life is not that. But the chaos, the drama is real.
Right.
And so. So I'm sure that if this was both in competition and I can find a video of it, right? I mean, we have every recital video going back 20 some years.
Yes, I'm sure.
So Brandon, we're going to make a note of that. We got to find the book.
Copy?
Yeah, we're going to find the book and we're going to show it during this episode. Favorite prop?
Oh gosh. Probably the book.
Because when it worked, it worked.
Because when it worked, it was fantastic.
I'm sure that there's 1,000 dancers over the last 20 years that would be like, my least favorite thing was also my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And it just had to be whether or not it worked or not.
Right. And it's fun because there's so many. I've already had teachers reach out to me. I'm thinking this, or, how about this? And I had one of our dance teachers sent me a picture from a ride at Disney World.
And was like,
can we
prop this?
And
somehow?
she said, this is what I want for my routine.
Oh my
and I pretty much made it look almost to a T.
That's
exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Steph, I got a text message from Steph maybe a week ago, and she said, how long is the trailer?
Oh,
and I was like, oh no. And it was audition days. We were auditioning for competition team coming up. And I was like, I don't know. Let me text. And I texted my dad because I didn't know off the top of my head. I think he said 12 feet. And she's like, what I need is 13. I was like, what are you wanting? That's 13 feet. And she wants church pews that she had mentioned to you. And then she goes, I just mentioned it to Jeena as an idea. And she just sent me this. And it was a screenshot of a Facebook marketplace of free church pews.
Correct.
Right? That all you had to do, the only stipulation was that you had to come pick them up. And I'm like, first of all, I can get them. We have an open bed trailer that I have access to that we could strap them onto, and we can get them. But then we have to figure out how to make it so we can get them into the box trailer that we use for competition, which if you've ever been a part of a dance studio, or if you're listening to this and you're part of the dance studio, when is there ever room? You know what I mean? It's pretty jam packed.
Right.
But we tried to figure it out, and if that would have been what we had to do, we would have figured it out.
We would have.
We would have cut those things in half.
Right.
Hopefully, that's not sacrilegious or anything.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in church; I could cut a pew.
And then there's getting them up the steps and storing them and where do they go and all of the things.
Do we put them on wheels to get them around? So the dance world is crazy.
It is, but the thing about the whole dance world, and I want people, for those people that are watching, my kids started in dance, of course, but they also tried soccer. They did try t-ball. They tried golf. They tried all of the things. And I told both of them at a very young age, I said, the first time that you tell me I don't want to go to dance, then we're done.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me.
Right.
It is not a cheap sport to get into.
Yeah, it's not, I told Steph she's never allowed to stop teaching.
Yeah.
As long as our kids are dancing, she's got to teach.
There are a lot of sacrifices that a family have to make.
Yep.
Now, on the flip side of that, the dance world and going to dance and being involved in dance also teaches discipline, time management.
I was actually just going to ask you, outside of dance, what's the thing that you appreciate the most about the dance experience? So you're already hitting it.
Right. It's discipline for sure, and time management. My kids both always know and had it ingrained in them that school always comes first.
Right.
Nora is at the studio. We have classes 5 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and then all day on Saturday. And she's there 4 days. I've always told her you need at least one night off to devote to school and studying. Exactly. But both of my kids always knew that school came first.
Yes.
I mean, Sophia, she was one of the valedictorians of her high school graduating class.
Nice.
She got a full ride scholarship to OU. She's in the honors tutorial
I didn't know about
program.
the full ride.
Yeah. She was accepted into a program at OU. It's called the honors tutorial program.
Okay.
And it is the only one in the United States, I believe, and I'm sure she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a special program that you have to apply for. There's a few hundred people that apply for it, or a few hundred people. Only a very small amount get accepted. So she earned herself a full ride scholarship. Currently, she is an RA at OU. She is an orientation advisor. She's a tour guide. So she does all of these things.
She's probably crushing that too.
Oh my gosh.
Like knowing her and like her personality.
Yes.
Like that's amazing.
Yeah. And so, that all came from being a part of the dance world. So, I know so many times people talk about, oh, your daughter's a dancer. Oh, that's so nice. No, she really was a whole part of that dance world. And this is what it taught her.
Yeah.
And it taught her how to communicate with adults and how to accept criticism.
Yeah.
And, how to look at other people and meet other people and, that whole realm of communication skills and
time management too. You got to be able to manage your time.
Absolutely.
Because it's nonstop. Like Ellie, there's some days where Ellie has a longer work day. Like she goes from school to dance and her day of energy being spent is longer than mine as a professional adult. And you wouldn't know it because they're enjoying it, and they're not doing tasks that are like, difficult in terms of like, I don't want to be doing this sometimes, but generally they're enjoying themselves, but it's so much work and they have to have so much balance and so much, time management. I remember when I was able, we could talk about this for hours, but when I went on a first date with Steph, I drove home after that first date, and this sounds like I'm making it up, but I swear this is true. And I remember thinking, if I continue to date this girl, there is no chance that I don't fall in love with her, right? And I went home and I was thinking about it. I mean, it was late because we had talked into like early morning, like 1:30. I mean, whatever. And so I was driving home, and I remember thinking to myself, what is it that I was so like, bewitched about? Like what? And I remember specifically the way that her eyes lit up when she talked about her dancers. And I think if anybody can be that committed and that compassionate about another person, and especially kids, I am all in. Do you know what I mean? And so like the studio was such an important component of why I was so drawn to her. And then when I watched what it was teaching all the kids, it was just another thing. I was like, if my wife is a part of that and she's pouring into that, because this, you've said it, they treat each kid like almost like they're extensions of their own family. Right. They care so deeply about them. And so that's all those things that you just said, I would echo 100%. So if you're listening to this and you're like, should my kids do dance? The answer is always yes. You should be ready to spend some money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And get a second job.
Yeah, the answer is always yes. Because and I joke, and people who don't know this probably think this is really stupid to joke about, but the dance competitions, they put out these sponsorship things, and each dancer gets a form and they can go fill out. They can go to businesses and fill out a sponsorship, and then that business gets like a shout out at recital. They get put on the nationals competition shirt or whatever. And it's to cover the competition costs of things, I mean, this, but if you're listening, and so the fact that there's so many companies kind of under the umbrella that I work with, Steph is like well, we don't need all of those to sponsor our girls. So we were excited to be able to sponsor outside of like our own family with the companies. But at the same time, I'm like, if our girls keep doing all these competitions, we're going to need like we're going to need more companies just so we could put out the sponsorship stuff. And so, I mean, it's pricey, but it's worth it because you really can't buy like, how to overcome adversity.
Right.
You can't buy, communication skills. You can't buy how to work with a team.
Right.
Those are learned skills, you know? And so, yeah, the dance world, but I mean, we went that's just part of what you do.
Oh,
right?
yes.
What else is going on?
So, it's funny because I'm also an executive director for the company that I work for. And I'm kind of one of those people you don't hear much about anymore, but I've been with the company since its inception 25 years ago.
Wow.
So I have been with my company now for that amount of time. It's crazy. That's, it's half my life.
Yeah.
Which is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh gosh, wait a minute.
Man. What are we talking about?
I know. Now that I put it that way, that sounds kind of crazy, but I'm a speech therapist by background.
Okay.
I've always enjoyed talking to people, and I'm very passionate about patient care, and I love that part of my life, and that is I'm what I do a majority of my day, of course.
Yeah.
But I have kind of worked up the ranks, and I've been a manager, and now I'm an executive director. I oversee a lot of employees.
Right.
I go through the same stressors that a lot of people do being at that level.
Yeah.
I oversee, a couple different divisions in the company that I work for.
Right.
As a contract therapy provider.
Okay.
And so, that part of me is, just during my day, and then I have to move right into being that dance mom in the evening.
Yeah, there's no break either. It's like from it.
No break.
Yeah. Do you get to still do speech therapy, or does this not include the actual practical frontline stuff now?
I used to kind of do a little bit of that as a part of my day, but I don't get to do it as much.
Yeah.
I still get to talk to patients, which is great.
Yeah.
I was just in a building, a couple weeks ago, and I was able to talk to a patient and ask him, what his plan was, a discharge plan and all. But yeah, so I don't get to do as much, one-on-one patient care anymore, but I guess that's what happens when you work for someone for 25 years.
And you do a good job. They're going to put you somewhere else.
Right, and give you more work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully more money.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. More work is fine. I can take that.
Well, and that was something else. And I want to say this, Ethan and Emerson both, Ethan did speech therapy in school. And then Emerson, I still think it's part of her like education plan. She's going into, I think it's second grade. And if I'm wrong, that's the problem. But I think it's second grade. And so she's still in it. And it's so funny too, because she'll come home and I'll be like, okay, what's your homework or whatever? And then she'll say it, and then she'll catch herself and she'll go, la, or whatever the thing is.
Yes, I love that.
And then it was funny. You'll appreciate this because the speech therapist also is a dance mom that was working with her. Okay, I think you know who I'm talking about.
Sure.
And that she knows Steph, and if we know one thing about Steph, it's that Steph likes she likes her margaritas.
Oh, yes.
Right. And one of the ways that they were working on L's with Emerson was to say this: Mommy likes lime in her margarita. And so Emerson would come home and she'd be like, Mommy likes lime in her margarita, and then Steph would be like, you're not wrong, right? Like, good job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, anyway, that's just a little shout out. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, funny story. So when my kids were younger in elementary school, I got a phone call. I think Nora was maybe second grade, maybe. And so second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, maybe. And I got a phone call, and the woman on the other end of the phone, she said, Mrs. Anness? And I said, yes. And she said, hi, this is so-and-so. I'm the speech therapist at St. Rose. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, hi. And, of course, both of my kids, the last sounds to come are the S's and the L's. And both of my kids were having trouble with their S's. But of course, I'm sure, as you know, that, a parent is the worst kind of teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. And so,
I do know that. Yeah.
So she said, and I would like to see your daughter Nora in speech therapy.
And you're like, okay.
I said, you don't say.
Yeah.
I said, funny you say that. And I fessed up. I was really proud of myself. I said, I'm actually a speech therapist also.
Yeah.
And she said, really?
Yeah.
But the flip side and what I do is I've all been in geriatrics. So school kids were just not my thing, and that's what they say in the therapy world. You're either with adults or you're with kids.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. And you don't really mix those worlds.
No. So I was always with adults.
Yeah.
So I said, go for it. You do what you have to do.
Right.
So
I don't want to keep you super long, but there is one more thing that you mentioned that sparked something we talked about yesterday. And it was about the more work thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting too, because there's this kind of new movement where, and you interview people, you employ people, I interview people, I employ people. And we've both noticed that there's this big trend where, even 10 years ago, people would come in and they'd be like, whatever you need. Do you know what I mean? What can I do to help this company? Or what can I do to be employed? Mm-hmm. Right? And now, and I don't want to bash it because I do think that there's value in people understanding their worth, but I do want to have a conversation with a person, because you employ people your age, you're looking to employ people who are younger, right? Like we want that whole wide range.
Sure.
The audience that I want to employ are young people, because there's something that I like about their desire to go full out and like every day I'm going to change the world. Mm-hmm. I want that passion. I want that energy. I don't want the attitude that can come with that sometimes, but I also don't want to just employ people that are older, because I don't want that, well, I'm more experienced. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. I'm going to show you how it's done from the middle or from the bottom level or whatever, because they both come with pros and cons. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm getting to is that I'm sure you've noticed this, where now there's this trend. I don't know if it's a trend. I don't know if it's going to change, where instead of somebody coming and saying, what can I do? It's, here's how much I'm going to make and here's what I'm going to do. And if that doesn't work for you, thank you so much for your time. Mm-hmm. And I'm generalizing it.
Sure.
Do you see that?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And they want to tell you when they're going to come into work, what hours they're going to work.
It's a different thing.
It is. And it's funny, something struck me, and I think it was episode 3 maybe of the podcast here. And you said that, your dad came home and told your mom, this is what I got to do, and put his coat on, and out the door he went to go and look for something.
Work, anything.
Yeah, anything. And that is totally unheard of now. It's what can I do to not work?
Right.
I mean, that's just, and I'm not saying that.
And that's not true of everybody. Right. I mean, because they're in this room right now. Right. There's people that are in their 20s, early 30s. I don't know how old you got. How old are you, Brandon?
28.
28. Ryan, how old are you?
26.
26, right? And I want to say this specifically because they're sitting here and I don't want to think we're talking about them. But they don't work very hard. I'm just kidding. They work actually very hard.
We'll see how this podcast looks.
how the edit goes. Yeah, it's gonna look like a rot episode. Mm-hmm. But I want to be super clear about something. Is that, and you can speak to this too. If like Brandon and Ryan, they believe in the vision of what we're trying to do, and they'll work hard. They'll work 16-hour days because they believe in what that vision is. Right? They don't complain. They'll come on the back end and they'll be like, is there a way that this could have been more efficient? Like, we'll have conversations about it. Could we have done that in 12 hours? Could we have split that into 2 days? Like, we'll have those discussions. But I also invite those conversations because I know how hard it is to work those days too. Right. And so I think there's something to be said while there's a lot of people who will come in and they'll say, this is how, I'm going to work this many days. This is what I'm worth. You can't tell me otherwise. And it's hard because it's hard to get good work. Mm-hmm. And so there's a point where you're like, well, I'm going to take what I can get. But at the same time, you're like, I'm not, because I can't set a precedent where you tell me I'm your employer.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't think that the way that your company's set up, it's your name at the bottom of the paychecks, but my name endorses the employees that work at Safe House. And it's like, you don't get to tell me that.
Right.
Like we got a job to do.
Right.
And I'm going to try to work with you. I'm going to try to create a culture that you get time off and you feel good about it and all that. And I wanted to ask you, like, if you see that same trend where it's not about just getting, there was this, I don't know if it's generational or just personality where it's like, thank you for the opportunity to work. Like when we were talking yesterday, you were like, if they needed me to drive,
oh yes,
if they needed me to work extra hours, I would be like, thank you so much for giving me this chance.
Right.
And now it's like, it's a different thing where it's like, no, and you can't make me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in some cases you can't.
Right.
Because if you terminate them for that, then it's a whole thing or whatever.
Right.
But I wanted to see if you've noticed though, if there's more of a trend for people, it doesn't seem like people are working for money now. It seems like if they do work hard, it's for something else. It's for like a story. It's what their work. It's what the company that they're attached to is chasing.
Right.
It's like the vision concept. And you're in the medical field. Mm-hmm. Is that the same for that? If they buy into what it's doing, is it easier to get that passionate work, or is that just something that I see because of the industry that I'm in?
I think it's a little bit of both in the work that I do. You know, I think they want compensated, but they also want or have the desire to feel appreciated.
Yeah. Which
in healthcare, you know, it's hard to spread that appreciation and how much appreciation. And you know, with all of the employees I have, I would love to send all of them a text message every day and say, hey, I know you guys are working hard. I appreciate you. It's hard to do that.
Yeah,
so I
sure.
do, you know, shout out to all of my employees that I have. I think they're the hardest working people. But they are also looking at, you know, there's a lot of healthcare companies out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people looking for
That's
healthcare
a market
workers.
that definitely needs work.
Yes.
Yeah. So it'd be competitive if they're good employees.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm finding a lot of is just the whole social media outlet that people have to kind of look up on their phones. You know, there's different therapy groups out there and saying, okay, this is the company that I started working for. How are they? Or, you know, this is kind of the job I'm looking for. How much should I ask for?
Yeah.
So that whole social media shift that, you know, has come about with these different collaborative groups that are out there. And, you know, they really have been feeding into, you know, what people want to hear, I guess, you know? So I think that kind of has a part of it too. It's crazy.
Brandon, did you ever chat GPT how much money you should be making?
I haven't, but I
will now.
No. I think that Nate probably has before, and we talked about it.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And I think, but that's interesting too, because what ChatGPT does is it just pulls literally everything that's on the internet and calculates it into like one answer, and so it's coming from all social media, it's coming from Wikipedia, it's coming from Google searches.
Right.
It's pulling all of these things. People are putting it out there, and then ChatGPT is consuming that and then regurgitating an average answer, right? Like generalized thing.
Correct.
But it doesn't, you'd have to put in very specific things about my cost of living is this, and the economy in my area is this, and those numbers, that would be different. Like, because what you're doing probably pays a significantly different amount in a super populated
New York City,
hugely metropolitan area.
Sure.
Right. And then, because I'll have meetings with accountants and I'll be like, we're going to hire this position that we're creating from nothing because the company is growing. We need some advice on what this should be worth, because we want to pay the position and not the person. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but somebody can come and they can say, this is what I need to come work for you. And then you hire them at that, and you set a precedent where when somebody else comes to fill that role and they have 3 or 4 more years experience of it, they're going to be like, well, if you paid that person this, I'm bringing this, I need more. And so what you have to get into a habit of doing is saying, this is what the position is. This is how much this position makes. If that doesn't work for you, it's okay for you not to apply.
Right.
Or if it's okay that the interview process ends after the first thing, because the company as a living, breathing organism, this is what it can afford to do this. Right. And if you can't live with that, that's okay. And if nobody can live with it, then the company is faced with a decision that says we might have to pay more. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And so it's weird, because you're right. There's this concept or avenue where it's like, oh, I'm doing that same job and this is what I'm making. And it's like, well, that company's been in existence for 50 years more. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And media is tough too, because a lot of media is freelance.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to be a freelancer, you got to cover all of your own tax expense. I mean, the cost of a freelancer is way higher than if you were to hire somebody on a W-2 or you were to pay them an hourly rate or whatever. But then as this podcast shows, the work that is created by it is phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
We're going to take a break here in a second. When we swing back around, we're going to talk about movies because you listened to last week's episode, or you heard last week's episode. And those movies, we're going to talk about movies that have been around for 50 years. That's media. Those, so it's interesting. So we have, I think that we barely scratched the surface of the conversation we had yesterday.
Yes, totally.
So we're going to have you back.
I would love
because we're
that.
hitting our point of where we were going to try to wrap up. I don't want to keep you late because you got an important job. You got to rest up and get ready for it.
And I'm traveling tomorrow.
No
so
studio stuff tonight. We're in the calm before the storm.
We are.
So season starts first week of September.
September 6th
Yes.
is opening day.
I think that this episode is going to drop like the week before that, which is why I wanted you on this one, because we're talking about kids, we're talking about school, we're talking about dance.
Yes.
And when this episode drops, I think it's the week after that everything kicks off.
Yeah.
So I'll be seeing you a bunch.
I'm looking forward to it.
The competition season doesn't start until January, February.
Mm-hmm.
But prop season starts immediately.
Correct.
Yeah, you're already
I've got a
getting
list.
ideas and getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
We only got 2 more years. And I'm not taking over for you. I'm going to put that out into the universe right now. That's somebody else's thing. I'll help. I'll drive the trailer. I'll haul them and
Yeah.
I'll lift them. But don't ask me to make them.
I've got a couple of people in training.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
but again,
we'll have them on when it's their turn.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes.
yeah, I'm getting antsy. I'm not sure, but
Listen, here's one thing too is, I'm going to speak for everybody that if you're bored, you just come right back
Right.
over and we'll just keep the same rhythm.
Sure.
Okay. You can be surrogate to Ellie and Emerson, and then you got a few more years left.
Right. Just a
after
few.
that. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Sure.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. We're going to wrap up here. Jeena, my guest, it's been awesome to talk to you today.
Yeah,
Thank you so
for
much
sure.
for taking some time. You, before we took a break, after the last episode, we're like, can you hear it up there? You hear the Zumba happening?
Barely. Yeah, I'm
Through
good.
the headset, we can. Probably not as much in the mics. We should be
Yeah,
okay.
we'll be okay. And so we'll just have a dance party.
Yeah.
So you when you walked in, you mentioned, here's my only thing with the director thing, because we had the conversation at the end of last week's episode about the directors. And you mentioned a specific name, 2 names.
Yes.
And Brandon was like, oh, right. And so who were they?
Stanley Kubrick,
Stanley Kubrick.
for sure.
And what was the other one?
Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola. Stanley Kubrick is like Clockwork Orange, right?
Yes,
Clockwork
and
Orange.
my favorite horror movie of all time, The Shining.
The Shining.
Yep.
I got a hot take. You're probably not gonna like this.
You like the book better?
I like the book better.
Okay, I get it.
Is that okay to say?
That's 100%
Okay.
okay because there's a lot of books that are better than movies.
I feel
for
like
sure.
I wish that, and nobody can remake The Shining as a movie now because the movie stands alone from the book.
Right.
And like you can't recreate it.
Correct.
But when I read the book, I did something that probably most people didn't do. But I read the book, and then as soon as I finished the book, I rented and watched the movie.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that might have been a mistake because there was so much visual in the book that was terrifying that I don't know if you would have tried to do it when the movie was made. You could have pulled it off without it looking ridiculous.
Right, and they did try to do another Shining. Like there was
Dr. Sleep?
something.
Well, that would have been the prequel, right?
That was
Or
like a
it was
sequel.
It was a sequel where the child from The Shining was an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did try. I think it was Stephen King maybe, that he did try to make a movie that was more adapted from the book.
From the original book.
Correct.
Because did I read that he wasn't crazy about the film
He
adaptation?
didn't
That
like
is
it.
accurate.
He
Is
didn't
that
like
true?
it at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kubrick.
But it stands alone now.
It does.
Because Kubrick's also Space Odyssey, right?
Mhm.
2001, A Space
Mhm.
Odyssey.
Correct.
Yeah, which was visually and cinematically like
Yes.
way ahead of its time.
Yes.
And then, of course, Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, The Godfathers.
I don't know that there's-
mean,
I mean, widely known as one of the greatest films of all time.
all time.
Ever made. Is
Yes.
that your favorite Coppola film?
Oh gosh, yes. The Godfather, the original Godfather.
Is your favorite?
Yes.
It is a fantastic story. And I just watched it recently for the first time all the way through. I'd seen bits and pieces of it. Everybody knows famous lines, offer you can't refuse, horsehead in the bed, like the famous things. You're like, wow. You watch it all the way through and you're like, this is a fantastic film. Like everybody's right, you know? Coppola just did one though, a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think it was last year,
Megalopolis.
I liked it.
You liked it.
I did like it.
I have not seen.
Okay.
I will have to watch
I'm
though.
so curious as a Coppola fan, the Godfather fan, I would be super curious for you to watch this and then we talk about it.
I would love to.
Because I haven't watched it because I hadn't been exposed to a lot of his catalog up to this point anyway. And so I just, like I said, just sat down and watched The Godfather but it was widely panned.
Yes.
As
a lot of people really didn't like it. I
Did
went to
not
see it
like
with
it.
I went to see it with Michael Durkee, and he wasn't even sure how he felt about it.
Right.
After I left, I have a different bar for whether or not a movie's good or great. If I enjoyed myself in the theater, it was a good movie. Great is a different story. I thought it was great, though. I really did like it.
Yeah. So Megalopolis, it's a Kubrick style film because it is like grand in scale. Or not Kubrick, Coppola. It's a Coppola style film because it is grand in scale. And yeah, I want to hear what you think.
Okay.
I read
have
that.
homework.
I also read that during The Shining, Kubrick specifically, what was the actress's name?
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall. He told the cast to treat her poorly, so she felt super alone. So that translated into the film.
Yes.
It worked.
It did.
She was brilliant.
Yes.
It was
Oh, yeah.
terrifying, and I hate that he did that to her.
Yeah. Also, don't do that to your actress.
Yeah,
But
she's a treasure.
that stayed with her.
She was a treasure. I know it did. I read that too.
Yeah, that stayed with her.
she just passed away in like the last year or two, didn't she?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's one of those roles that you're like, not acting anymore almost as a result of it, But the film is let me ask this question to both of you. How much is it worth it for art?
For me, it's going to depend.
On the back end, you got to be able to say, I'm worth giving up something on the screen in order to take care of the mental health of a person, right, Brandon? Like you've been in film, like you've worked as director, you've worked on sets.
Yeah. I think communication is going to be the biggest thing. I think that if you have a good rapport with your actor or actress and they are aware of what kind of tactics and methods you're going to be using as the director to get whatever performance out of them that you need, I think if Shelley Duvall was on board with that on the front end and she'd talk to him about it, then it's a little bit less of an ethical issue
don't leave her out of
she was
it.
aware of it. Yeah. Now, but to do that without her being any the wiser, I think that's a huge ethical issue.
That's not going to happen today.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, times are so different now. When what used to happen years ago in film and TV and all of the things media, related is so much different now.
Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, as a whole other conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So, Godfather's your favorite Coppola film.
Yes.
Is The Shining your favorite?
For sure.
Kubrick film? Is that your favorite film of all time?
No.
What's your favorite
actually,
film of all
my
time?
favorite film, you guys are probably going to laugh, and I don't even know if you've seen it or not. My favorite movie of all time, An Officer and a Gentleman.
Oh, I've seen parts of it. I know what you're talking about. An Officer and a Gentleman.
I haven't seen that one.
Not on your
Richard
thing?
Gere.
Yeah.
And Deborah Winger.
Yes.
And Louis Gossett Jr.
Yeah.
The most amazing, fantastic. I love the movie.
There's going to be a lot of people that agree with you.
I hope so. Every time it's on, I
Yeah.
have to watch it. It's just, it's an amazing movie. I love it. There's so many.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we could go on and on. I do
Right.
want to shout out Sophia because I'm a big Stranger Things fan.
Oh,
And
gosh,
I know
yes.
did you watch Stranger Things?
Not the new season.
Not the most recent one?
No, but I'm caught up until the new season.
Well, you got time to watch it now because the next one is like Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
okay.
They say if you start watching it on a certain date if you watch one episode every day.
Yeah.
You'll
be caught up.
Yes.
Gotcha.
The thing that I'm the most curious about, because I don't know when they shot it, is the way the last season ends. And like, it's hard being a child actor and producing something that has children in it, because the span of the actual story is not going to span the amount of years that they've grown.
Right.
And so
Right.
I'm so curious to see how they're going to do this.
Yes.
Because like everybody knows, I mean, Millie Bobby Brown is is an adult woman.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
this film is taking place when she's supposed to be like a prepubescent like child.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I'm just
it's
super
crazy.
curious how they're gonna play it out. I'm gonna have no problem suspending reality, you know, and just living in that disbelief because I love it.
Oh,
I think
yes.
it's one of the most brilliant. I think it put Netflix in a different stratosphere. And I'm excited. So shout out to Sophia because we'll talk about it.
Yes,
we'll watch it. And
yeah,
we'll
for
talk about it.
sure.
I remember I told you this yesterday that at a nationals competition, that was the first time. And I always look for working with teenagers my entire life. I always try to find something to connect them with, which if I'm not careful, that comes off as creepy. You know what I mean? Because it's like, why is this adult man trying to talk to me? But I entered the energy of a young person. And then if I ever get a chance to like, you know, provide support for the family, or, you know, you know, whatever. I always like to find those avenues and help where I can or whatever. And not everybody needs it and, you know, whatever. But I remember she was wearing a shirt and it was I'm blanking on it now, the Hellfire.
Yes.
It's
yes.
the group that played D&D.
Right.
She was wearing that shirt and I was like, oh my gosh. And she pointed to me and I was like, yeah, we just had a moment, you know, and everybody was sitting around at the nationals competition. And so, yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have a good time. So, but with that, I want to hear everybody else's thoughts. Kubrick, Coppola.
Yeah, please. I would
movies.
love to hear.
We need to do all this and I'm making notes and we got it on film. Books that were movies that we like the book more or the movie more or whatever. We got to talk about all that. So we're going to have some fun with some polls and some social media engagement and things like that. But with that, we're going to wrap episode 5. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Let's
thank
do it
you.
again.
Of course.
And we'll talk to you guys next week. Stay tuned. Thanks so much.